Hi, folks. You're with Tacitus today. Tacitus Day, your your pushback channel. Thank you for joining this audio, no pictures live stream. Please listen to this presentation as you would a radio broadcast. Excuse me. In this essay, I'd like to talk about the incredible marketing and branding success that the globalists have had in depicting anyone that questions or opposes the globalist project as being a fascist, Nazi, xenophobe, bigot, if not Hitler. And they're probably the most shining and clearest example of that success in propaganda and branding has been the branding of Donald Trump as literally Hitler. Now, it's all been on the basis of propaganda, but its success can't be denied. And there are people who claim or purport to be amongst the brightest and best and cleverest in our communities in the West who've totally bought this and they will, well, yeah, he is Hitler. So when you're talking to people who, again, these are people living in the richest postcodes in the country. They've got their $300,000 worth of motor vehicle plus in the driveway. They go on vacations where they burn $100,000 without thinking, and so on. So they're living that type of lifestyle. Yet they're firmly of the view that, well, yeah, Trump is literally Hitler. And now the success of the marketing is such that people firmly hold these views, even defend them quite bitterly, without any evidence. So when you ask them, well, so what is the evidence that Trump's Hitler? If you're asking, it means you're Hitler, and they'll straight away go into personal attacks. But no one I've ever spoken to has been able to point to one policy that says that that's the sort of policy that Hitler would have. Not that these people know anything about Hitler, by the way. Even that in itself is a marketing invention to a very large extent. So now I remember when just in the end of the last election, where the presidential election, and the commentators on CNN and MSNBC, the globalist controlled media that are the ones pushing that Trump's literally Hitler, they were saying, look at all the people that voted for Trump. That's how many Nazis are in America. So if you vote for Trump, you're a Nazi. That's it. So he's Hitler and you're a Nazi. And now that sort of branding is something that's fairly new. It never used to happen that way. People would, media commentators would attack, say, policies that they thought were no good. If someone had been directly guilty of crimes, then that might get mentioned. But to brand someone as literally Hitler just because you don't agree with them, and that's what they've been told to do by the globalist cabal, by the way. So it's not like they're acting independently or rationally. They just say, well, can you just insert that Trump's Hitler? Why don't you do? And they dutifully do that. People who would struggle to get a job that even pays the average wage are actually being paid a lot of money just as propaganda deliverers. And these are, by the way, media outlets, none of which make profits. They're propped up by globalist corporate interests. If these media outlets had to survive on the revenues and advertising revenues, they'd all go bankrupt overnight. So this is not something that people want to see or want to hear. They're being delivered propaganda that's being funded by globalist interests, not by the demands or needs or desires of the people or the success of the programs in attracting viewership. So, but just going through and talking to, let's just highlight how bad this has got. This Trump's literally Hitler, and again, it's all without evidence. There's no evidence that he is or anything like that, but constantly this message is pushed and pushed and pushed, and it's it's stuck again to people who should know better. So now, I guess the interesting thing is not that people, which is in itself an issue, that people say, well, he's literally Hitler, but to the extent to which this gives them permission to or to excuse the most outrageous law breaking, the most outrageous criminal activity, lies, cheatings, treacheries, you name it, anything. All morality's gone out the window because once you declare someone as being literally Hitler, no matter what you do is good, provided it's against them. No matter what, anything is good. Whether it be, mass murder or something, it doesn't matter. We're stopping Hitler, so we're allowed to do this, and we're morally good for being criminals and breaking the law. So when it comes to, say, rigging an election, now if it comes to, say, any election at all, well, it's okay to rig an election if we're stopping Hitler. Okay, so then you come back to the next stage. What evidence do you have that Trump's Hitler? He just is, and you're Hitler if you are even asking the question and so on. Or you get, stupid quip type comebacks of, well, you tell me why he's not, and I'll tell you if you're right. No. You've said he's literally Hitler. What has he done? What policy? He said bad things about illegal immigrants. Illegal immigrants? That means it's illegal. But they're desperate people that are being oppressed. But no, and then you get all this emotional claptrap comes out. So really anything, if Trump says, I think we should offer burgers and fries. Hitler. So really, they've just wound anything he does is a manifestation of Hitler. And again, this is a huge success in branding, and it's propaganda, but a huge success in branding and marketing. So there is no evidence. You can't get any evidence out of anybody because there isn't any. There's no resemblance between Trump's policies and Hitler at all. It all exists in the marketing and the branding and the propaganda. But again, the interesting factor isn't that they attempted this, but how successful it is and how it's crept into the minds of, again, people who purport to be the best and brightest and certainly the wealthiest in our in Western communities. I'm thinking now, just I've got an image in my head now of a barbecue we went to, and this is in a $5 million house in a very nice area, one of the wealthiest postcodes in Australia, and people who don't have to worry about and have never had to worry about money, and they can indulge their delusional fantasies to the nth degree. The guy's got a job for life, very well paid, one in the public service, got a job for life. He's going to retire on a very generous pension, and he's going to get all sorts of probably get all sorts of nice, cozy consulting jobs and so. So they're living a very high quality life, as in lifestyle, high quality lifestyle. But yet they live in an area that's 99% white. All their neighbours are white. All their friends are white. All the people they know are white. The places, and so on. So they whilst they extol the supposed virtues of mass migration and diversity and so on, they don't have to deal with it. It's no effect on them. Their lives are completely unaffected by it, and so they can live the delusion without having to face the reality. But nonetheless, so talking about rigging an election, well, it's okay to rig an election. It's okay to falsify votes. It's okay to rig elections and manufacture votes and corrupt and bribe, and so it's okay to do all those things if you're stopping Hitler. So again, they give themselves this very, very broad sort of excuse of, but anything's okay if you're stopping Hitler. Now, so rigging an election is fine. Now, what about say bringing up false charges against someone for crimes they haven't committed? Well, that's okay if you're stopping Hitler. That's all right. It's okay to just throw the laws out the window and try. Yeah. If you're stopping Hitler, it's okay. Or what about stacking a jury in a court case? And so, yeah, that's all right if you're stopping Hitler. Yeah, that's okay. So then we go to the zenith of it all. What about assassination? Yeah. If you're stopping Hitler, that's okay. So really, the success in branding of Trump as literally Hitler means that anything we do, any law we break, any election we rig, any jury we stack, any court case we corrupt, any false charges is all permissible, and if not permissible, desirable, if not an absolute necessity, because we're stopping Hitler. So we're allowed to do that. Now, if we look at demonization through the a lot of people would say, in fact, most people would say, well, the demonization of the Jews meant, this is during Central Europe in the last century, demonization of the Jews went to such an extent that when they were acts against them were clearly and blatantly illegal, that it was considered permissible because these are very evil people who've done terribly bad things. So it's okay. It's okay if we do this. It's okay if this happens to them. And, I may not like it if when I see these people, say, arbitrarily arrested, for example, or arbitrarily imprisoned, or, but it's okay. Now, the same is in any authoritarian regime where, say, in the Soviet Union or the communist countries generally, they ginned up this idea that everywhere there were lurking enemies of the people. Enemies of the people. We saw this in the French Revolution too. Counter-revolutionaries and so on. And they ginned up this fear through the media and control of the media that these sinister, evil people were lurking everywhere, enemies of the people and that sort of stuff. So that anything that was done to them, such as arbitrary arrest, kangaroo court cases, arbitrary imprisonment, the brutal treatment they received, this was all, well, it's all acceptable because we're it's being dished out to enemies of the people. Enemies of the people. Now, whether they were enemies of the people, what was the evidence? It doesn't really matter. They're enemies of the people. Hey, so demonization of any sort, whether it's directed at one man or a group of people, or if it's just outright demonization, which means you no longer have to observe the law, then you've got a major problem. Then things are way out of control, and we're already at that stage in the Western world. And just to not only are there the court cases against Donald Trump that are blatant and brazen deep state attempts to bring him down, and of course the assassination attempts, and I think there'll be more of those. The globalists are desperate to take him out. They can't beat him, so they're desperate to take him out. And this is where the branding him as Hitler has come in. That they've actually got tacit permission from a lot of the population, certainly other members of the deep state, to do it. And the people that I've spoken to are saying, well, assassination's all right, murder, planned, premeditated murder on a political opponent. Well, that's okay because we're stopping Hitler. I mean, fuck, that's how far it's gone. We need to stop and have a serious reality check here. That's how far things have gone. That these, the most high-handed acts would be considered permissible just because someone is demonized as being literally Hitler, even though they've got, there's zero evidence that there's any association with Hitler at all, and never was, by the way. Hitler had the propaganda, jersey of being the main bad guy, like that's the one you conjure up at any time. Hey, yeah, you're Hitler. That's it. And so the association with Hitler, that was the easiest cross. If you say, oh yeah, you're Chairman Mao, people go, huh? What's he talking about? Because we're not taught the history of the obscene brutality of Chairman Mao and Joseph Stalin and various other, Pol Pot and various other dictators. The history isn't taught about them. Hitler's actually not the biggest villain. He's probably fourth or fifth in the overall scheme of things, but he's still the go-to. So if you're going to make a bad guy association, it has to be with Hitler. There's no bigger brand name of bad guy than Hitler. So that association is it. But people are we've got to the stage now in the West where it's acceptable, where things like assassination of political opponent, invented charges, legal harassment, state lawfare, rigging elections, all this sort of stuff is now, oh, no, it's okay. That's all right. No, that's all right. That's all right. No, hey, we can, because we're stopping Hitler. That's how far things have gone. When what we should be saying in a civilized, advanced, progressive society, one that I see as progressive at least, would say, no. Prove to me that there's Hitler. But more importantly, if you have to stop this guy by breaking the law and not only the law here and there, but multiple laws, conspiracy to commit murder, a political opponent. I mean, for fuck's sake, is that where we're at now? That these sorts of things, then you're no longer acting as the good guy. You're no longer the good guys, far from it. And so you need to, you operate within the agreed framework of laws. And if you've got better policies, and if you want to beat Donald Trump at the ballot box and you have better policies, we don't have this, it's only those white working class, hoi polloi, great unwashed men. Well, it doesn't matter. Then you make policies that appeal to them. And for goodness sakes, that's how you do it. You don't do it by rigging court cases, rigging elections, and conspiracy to commit premeditated murder. I mean, it's insane. Now, we see this all across the Western world, not to the same extent, because there's no politician in other parts of the Western world that's a threat in the same way that Trump was. But we look at, say Brazil, and Bolsonaro, the lawfare against him. And we also look at, say, in Britain, where a gadfly candidate like Boris Johnson was elected as prime minister, and he immediately was sort of, I don't know, somehow enveloped by the globalist machine, and he very quickly suddenly started to, and you could almost see the sufferance, very quickly started talking about as if he was a good little globalist stooge boy. And then, Liz Truss. Now, someone like Liz Truss, in my view at least, should never have been anywhere near the prime ministership. Nonetheless, regardless of what you do or don't think about Liz Truss, she was elected by the party membership as prime minister, but wasn't. The globalists didn't want her, so they just got rid of her and installed their own candidate, Rishi Sunak, which is the guy they wanted all along. And so they just tossed out an elected prime minister. I mean, that's insane. And yet that's what's happening. Now, they can't just throw Trump under the bus, I guess, so they're investigating all the other ways the deep state this is. But this is where we've got to now, where any illegal act is considered permissible based on a target that has been demonized to the point where many of the populists think that, well, that person shouldn't have any legal rights. No, the laws shouldn't exist. No, we shouldn't have no. Anything we do to that guy is permissible because he's literally Hitler. That's how far we've degraded as an advanced society. Now, the measure of an advanced society is its ability to abide by the laws, the agreed laws, the ability to abide by that, and that all parties abide by it. That's the example of an advanced society, and we're going backwards here. The West is ceasing to represent advanced societies. We're just turning more and more into two-bit, half-assed bullshit banana republics. You've been with Tacitus today, your Pushback channel, and thank you for listening.